I don't know if you saw this, Robert. I don't know if you follow Alex and Allison Gray, but Allison Gray just had a NFT purchased by Elon Musk.
Whoa, that's pretty awesome.
That's pretty rad. So
That's really awesome. I'm jealous.
well, you're next. You know,
Fingers crossed.
let's do it. Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you
What
too.
kind of show do you have in South Carolina?
Um, it's it's at the Art of League. It's like a bit biennial show. It's called. Um, I don't know. I found it on Cafe and I just applied.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you get to stop by Art Fields. I don't know if anybody else on the call is in Art Fields this year. We have three current BFAs, Kiara, uh, oh, Eli graduated, and Bobby, they have, or I'm sorry, Zachary, all have work in Art Fields this year. Also faculty, myself and Holly Hanessian, and then a former grad, Phil Gleason. So I hope you'll go, Tony, and find out how, what piece you should put in next year.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason we all know about it is my former assistant and MFA graduate, Brittany Watkins, won like $20,000 a few years ago, and the top prize is $50,000. So for the Southeast, it's the biggest prize available. It's worth a stab,
Nice. That's pretty awesome.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Liz.
Good to see you, Tony. Hi, Melissa.
Hey.
Exciting to see you all.
Melissa, is your show over today, or is there one more day?
No, today's the last day.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
well,
installing next week.
amazing show in the museum if anybody can make it there before 5. The downstairs, the instructor was Clint, so Clint's a great curator. It was an outstanding show.
Thank you. We're pretty happy too. Yeah, how it came out.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna mute myself, but because there's ambient noise here. But thank you so much, Robert, for joining us and agreeing to be part of this. I think as a Tallahassee native and a graduate from our BS program, it's just so exciting to see you doing well, and we'd like to hear your story.
Thanks. Yeah, I can go ahead and get started. Thank you for having me, Carrie. It's good to see like a lot of the people I went to school with, Dylan, Matthew, you guys are awesome, and Bobby in the background there. And especially shout out to Liz, who pretty much okayed the name Peen Poon like so many years ago when I was just having doubts about what to do and, what to call myself. And she just said, call yourself whatever you want as long as you can stand behind it. So that's pretty awesome. And I will always thank you for that, Liz. Appreciate it. But yeah, we can get right into it. Pretty basic stuff. So I'm Robert Blake, Peen Poon. I go to FSU. Went to FSU, graduated there a few years ago, and now I'm doing 3D artwork, commission artwork, freelance artwork, and doing NFTs as a way to support myself. And it's pretty awesome. My early interest in artwork all comes from a lot of the books I read, like Ender's Game, Da Vinci Code, Dune, lots of sci-fi, science fiction, fantasy, Halo 3, Spirited Away, and all of those influences, all that interest in animation, sci-fi worlds is all like basically informed everything about my artwork and my interests today. So it's nice kind of calling back to those times. And here's some more stuff that I was interested in early on, particularly 3D animations that just had a big impact on me, and just animations that had a big impact on me as well. And really, I think the most important thing about this slide is the fact that I was always interested in computers as a means to express myself. Honestly, because it's like was super accessible. Like being on the internet was a blessing for me. It's like really a privilege because there's so many opportunities, experiences, and ways to make money and express yourself that are out there kind of for free or for low cost if you know how to look. And I won't get too far into what it's like to be poor and own a computer, but there are a lot of softwares out there that you can use, and then eventually go and buy them or buy them at full price. But if you're just learning, starting out, there are many educational resources, educational pricing, all sorts of things that can help you out. Before I went to art school, I was not, I didn't always know that I wanted to be an artist. I just knew that I wanted to create something for a long time. I was doing computer science. I did hospitality and other things like that, but ultimately what caused me to transition into being an artist was my own trauma and my own experiences as a young person. And so just kind of realizing I wanted to take some agency in my life and start making some big actions, big decisions, and start like creating things. I just thought that was like a beautiful ability for human beings to be able to create something out of nothing and potentially earn a living for it. And so I had a creative outlet that I wanted to fulfill, but I also knew that I had to make some money. And so I originally started getting into design, graphic design, just things that I knew would pay some bills to support myself ultimately. So when I first started out at FSU, I was creating super basic stuff. This is like the first 2D GIF I created. You can see like I've always been interested in trippy and psychedelic artworks for a long time. I took digital media classes. That's when I took my first 3D foundations, 2D foundations, drawing, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I was still working in food service, sandwich shops, pizza shops, doing whatever I had to do to get by. And that too has informed a lot of my decisions about how I treat my artwork today. Some important things about what has affected me to get to this point is my interest in live music. I never stopped going to shows. I've always been interested in live music. And the more I went to shows and got into that scene, the more it started to affect my mindset, where it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be in this creative outlet or creative environment, then the inklings and drops of trying to find some kind of employment was there. So I didn't know at the time if that would be making visuals or making music or whatever, but I was just kind of exploring everything and starting to post my artwork online. Peen Poon was originally... the name Peen Poon was my gamer tag back when I played a lot of video games. I used to love trolling and poning noobs or whatever. And so I just kept with it on Instagram and social media, posting as Peen Poon, posting my artwork. And it eventually panned out to what you see today. So here's some more artwork I had as it made as a young person, exploring those psychedelic imagery, collage, it's all there. I made this in my 2D Foundations class, I think. Here's some of the early stuff I made on Instagram. I won't play it too loud, but right now I'm actually streaming. I'll post that. No one's face or anything is on the stream, by the way, but I am streaming the audio and my voice, so if you want to click the link in chat, you can hear the audio that's playing, just first experiments of making audio with Ableton. This is actually my first commission, the first time I had ever even... that anyone had paid me to make artwork for them. And as you can see, I was in the phase of using that early 2D graphic design style, just using the tools I had accessible to me to just try and make something and get it done. And like I said, I was working at a sandwich shop, pizza place, so really like any opportunity to work and make money as an artist was like I was interested in for sure. And just moving on, this is the first time I started out making 3D, super basic stuff. I think this was in Blender and Keith Roberson's 3D digital foundations class. Is another awesome class, awesome guy, awesome teacher. He basically laid the foundation for what would become my work later on in Blender. And as you can see, the work is very basic, but I was just experimenting. But just the idea of how to teach yourself and how to learn and explore and troubleshoot was really like the most important thing that I learned while I was there. During this time, I also got a internship working at a virtual reality firm. I worked there for like 2 years, doing really my first experiences modeling, doing Unity, getting into VR design and stuff. So that was fun, good times at FSU for sure. And then what really started changing my mind was going to music festivals. So Okeechobee 2016 was the very first music festival I ever went to, and just going there and seeing just so much art and so much focus around art and live music in a way that was financially sustainable was like a mind-blowing moment for me. It was like when I knew that, oh, this is definitely the thing that I want to be a part of. All those different aspects of my life, being in live music, making music on my own, going to shows, had all kind of led me to have the experiences I did. And like, I'm not even going to lie to you and say that it was all like just inspiration. There was a lot of partying and having fun. And, you know, it was only really when I got back from that experience that I realized like, oh, there's actually something to take home and reintegrate from this experience if I choose to. And so that's kind of what led me to start making more live visuals and seeing the live visual and music industry as like an actual option for a career. So I came back from that and started working on my first live projected visuals. You can see that the elements I'm reusing are like some 2D design stuff you saw a few slides ago. I'm using a basic open source software and a projector that I borrowed from the Fine Arts Room, just to kind of do a proof of concept. Yeah, and that's really all it was proof of concept. I'm like playing some music on Spotify from my phone right there. And yeah, you're just making basic music, just making basic animations, continuing to explore. Let's get back one. All right. So around this time is when I got my first job working a 9-to-5 at a quote unquote design firm. The pros and cons are very basic for me. Pros, it's nice having creative work. It's nice having that outlet. You don't have to do like you don't have to make sandwiches or whatever. Or that's what I was thinking personally. It was not making sandwiches and not just working till like 4 a.m. spinning pizzas or something. Just crazy stuff, you know. Having flexible hours to create my art and also travel for festivals, because that was my primary opportunity to network and grow my community. Oh, hello. Kyle's a troll. And also just having the resources and financial resources to continue doing my own artwork. Like you can't make art for free. You do have bills to pay and stuff like that. So I needed some way to continue to sustain myself. One of the cons, obviously, the reason I left was the low pay. We got into like a lot of disagreements about pay over the years that I worked. It never felt like I could earn enough for what I was doing. And at the same time, when you're working a 9-to-5, but also pursuing your own creative passion, you can start to feel undervalued in your 9-to-5 as your skills and other areas start to overlap and progress the areas that you've already developed in your 9-to-5. And I was really disappointed in that job because not only did they let me go during the pandemic, but it was because they didn't see the skills and value that I had been growing outside of the workplace. And like, that's all I'm going to get into it right there. But here's some of the cool stuff I did while I was there. Like I said, there's some pros: creative, flexible, lots of traveling. And this is like some pretty cool stuff to put on my portfolio. So like, this is like a recreation of a tree that's covered in rebar, clay painted. Then we have like sand. That's like a mixture of sand and glue on a base that we built. We cut this thing, installed it all the way down south, not all the way, but down in Miami. This is like a real crocodile that is donated from a collection of the museum. We create fake dioramas. What you see over here is actually a giant TV screen that's behind there that plays an animation. And so all these different things, this is like basically the perfect job for me at the stage I was at, because I was using so many of the skills that I had developed while I was at FSU. So all the 3D work I was doing, all the 2D work I was doing, design work, all this stuff was coming together to help me and improve at this job and, provide. And so while I'm doing that, I'm starting to realize that Peen Poon is like definitely a thing that I want to continue to do. I'm like feeling more serious about it. I'm meeting people, making connections, making friends in the industry. And so I just started exploring different ways to support myself and support that creative endeavor. So making stickers, there's a skateboard I designed, pins, those were super popular when I was going to festivals. And here's some t-shirts I designed myself. So this is like just the start of me starting to like think of Peen Poon and my brand as an actual brand and start thinking of it as a business. Like, this is when I start taking some of the money I've made working a 9-to-5, start reinvesting it back into my craft. And I'm just spending like so much time. I can't even express how much time I spent learning Blender and doing 3D work just whenever I could, like late night weekends, just anytime I wasn't working or I wasn't sleeping, basically, I was working on getting better at 3D animation. So it was definitely difficult, but it started to pay off. And so as I'm working on 3D animation, working on live visuals, doing all these things with the community and stuff, I start just exploring the other aspects of the industry, which for me, the opposite side of visuals is the music. So I actually went through and released my own album on Spotify just so I could have the experience of like uploading work independently, so I got understand how royalties work, so I can understand what it means to package a brand and promote and stuff like that. And not saying that it was super successful, but the experience I got helped inform me of what I could deliver better to the clients that I would hope to get in the future as a visual artist doing commissions and stuff like that. Just buying more equipment, keep practicing 3D work, continuing. So this is when I start getting into live streams, and you can see my setup is like maybe a little unique to what you've seen on Zoom before. All the things I'd been learning, I'm still just taking it all together, starting to explore how live streams could potentially be a stream of income for me, but it didn't end up working out in such a way. But I definitely understood better how to present myself as a online video content producer, how to produce live streams and stuff like that. And really, this is like, you'll notice with the artwork, it starts to become more about the artwork at this point. After going to quite a few festivals, I probably like 20 festivals or so, which is not even that many compared to some people I know. But I just started to really recognize what made a good festival, to realize the experiences that people have, the quality of art showcased at some of these events, and kind of the impact that showing art to a large crowd, or how the impact of a large live event can have on people's lives and outlooks on life. So definitely shout out to two artists, Glass Crane and Papa Bear. They're kind of in my community, and I'm happy to call friends of mine now, but they definitely inspired me with their style of artwork to start creating things that were more artistic, that were more expressions of my own self, and knowing that I was expressing something so true to myself made it easier to go and put that out to the world and potentially project it to however many hundreds of people during a live event. This is just some of my other stuff on Instagram. I'm still posting pretty heavily. What I was doing was a goddess series, which I've kind of like laid off specifically calling it a series of goddesses, but that's definitely what I call them. Goddess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty much all the way up to 25 goddesses over the course of like a year and a half. And each one of those is animation with stills and stuff. So this is just some of those other works. This is like a demo reel of everything I made during like 2019, 2020. Just lots of different stuff. You can see kind of how I'm exploring different mediums, exploring different concepts. And I just love to reuse things, but also just show the evolution. I think that's one of the most important things of like being an artist, or at least personally, is showing the evolution of how I got from here to there. So yeah, you can see how the goddesses are starting to come out now. And I was really proud of this piece in particular. This is Goddess 10, and I ended up taking that piece all the way up to a New Year's Eve event for an artist that I won't mention, but I ended up, it was my first art installation that I drove about 10 hours for free just to get there. So my point with that story is that opportunities are definitely everywhere. You should definitely pursue them, but be careful not to get exploited just for like free labor, or like because someone says they'll give you exposure or something like that. There's definitely some caution to be had there. So we're still going. Here's just some more artwork I was making. This is the next big commission I got, which is from Ravenscoon, who's an electronic music artist. And so this is when people started to recognize my work a little bit. And not even that I was like super talented of an artist, but I was just trying to put myself out there way more, and like just trying to get really serious about like, just responding to retweets, being like, oh, I'm looking for an animation on Twitter. And like, I'd respond like, yo, I do animations, things like that. This is also when I started getting on Twitter, which I found is probably the best platform as an artist. I really haven't found any benefit out of Instagram or Facebook. But Twitter, just as a means to actually get connections and get commissions, like I've definitely had a lot of success. Not that you shouldn't focus on those or that you shouldn't invest time into those, but just speaking from my own experience. Okay, so we're making 3D art. We're starting to get commissions. We're doing visuals. Basically, I have the confidence in myself to start applying to like these weird opportunities. And so that's how I got into 3D art and NFTs. I was taking everything that I had made in my portfolio up to that point, and I just kind of set it into super rare. You had to apply to get on there, and a couple of my friends were already on there. I mentioned Glass Crane earlier, another artist named Nox Lumina. he kind of told me that he was making enough money to like kind of buy himself some groceries. So I was like, oh, I mean, if you're making enough for that, I'm sure I could maybe make a couple dollars or something like that. And so I wasn't thinking about NFTs or the blockchain or super rare as a platform for true artistic expression at the time. Like was saying, I like to evolve, and at that time I was just kind of finding my wings as an independent artist. Like I didn't really have my whole story worked out. I didn't really have a cohesive visual library to speak of. Basically all I had was enough preparation and just kind of enough confidence and follow through to just kind of find myself into that opportunity. And I was definitely tenacious about getting that opportunity. I followed up with my application, and I followed up shortly after that. They hit me back saying that I was accepted. So just another point to always follow up with opportunities. You never know, people might forget, but when you speak up and advocate for yourself, you definitely make yourself more known. Just my take. So yeah, like I said, small independent portfolio, not really anything too special at this point, or at least personally. This was just when I first started getting into like more serious figurative work. But so this is the first work that I was really like proud of. After being on Super Rare for a little while, I'd say I'd been on Super Rare for 3 or 4 months. And after getting my first sale and getting the assurance that, hey, there is someone out there values your artwork, I kind of just inspired me to invest everything I had into it. And like I mentioned earlier with my 9 to 5, I was not feeling like I was being valued. And so this was kind of the opportunity, the first time that I've ever have started to feel value. So of course I'm going to commit everything I can into making this as much as it can be. So this is the first work that I was like really excited about, called Odom and Coma. I started integrating a lot of the ideas and themes that you've seen or my early history of the work, kind of like psychedelic imagery, sigils, mythology, etc., into the pieces. And essentially Super Rare act as like an incubator for my identity as an artist. Like I've been doing Super Rare for like doing Super Rare. I've been uploading my artworks as NFTs for about like 10 months. But even that is like the amount of change and progress I've been able to make just through the agency of having someone pay for my artwork has been really insane. It's like the extra year of 3D artwork that I wasn't able to get just because I was graduated and so focused on just making an income and kind of getting done and getting out of there. So this is kind of some of my artworks before I really got into Super Rare. I was definitely getting into it. This next artwork right here is something that I actually recreated, so I'll just pause right here. So this artwork is actually the same artwork as this one that you see right here. I just went back like 6 or 7 months later and just kind of redid it with some of the skills I had acquired, just to kind of as a challenge to myself and just kind of see where I was at. So now pretty much we're just going to go through some of my other artworks. I think we're almost done. We can ask some questions if you guys are curious about anything in particular. Bear with me 1 second. Before I go into my artwork specifically, this is like a chart of all of my sales on Super Rare. So I was let go from my 9 to 5 at the beginning of the pandemic for like I said, I asked for too much money. My boss has political differences, many reasons. It was fine. So around July 2020, I was let go. And then you can kind of see each sale I had after that. So a large cluster between October and November. So July, August, September, October. So about 4 months between my first sale and my next sale. And this entire time, I'm just like, I'm just working. I'm just working on my own artwork, trying to make the best work that I can until I got my next sale in October. And you can see how the market kind of seems to go in similar patterns. Obviously, I don't have a bunch of data, but pretty much big gaps of nothing, then little pops. And that's basically how it's gone for me as an independent NFT artist. Some big sales every once in a while, but in the meantime, I'm just working and kind of doing my thing, So now we'll talk a little bit about my process. And this, the information I show on screen is related to the last work I've created. Obviously, we all know what's going on with police brutality in America. I can personally speak on the experience of a Black person because I am Black. And so I'm kind of trying to bring those experiences into the 3D art and NFT world, which at times is mostly white for sure, especially when you're participating in an international art experience or an international art community. It's kind of hard to express your own individual outlooks and your own individual experiences in a way that everyone can understand. So it definitely, my process has evolved from just kind of making animations to kind of exactly what I did at FSU, which is doing a lot of research, making sure my artist statement is cohesive, kind of thinking about every impact or thinking about every element I add to my artwork and how it can actually have an impact and be meaningful. And also thinking about how it could possibly be misconstrued, because if there's a very specific message that I have, I don't really want to mint that permanently and have it exist forever on a blockchain as kind of my own personal statement. So my inspiration comes from, like I said, my experiences from traveling, meditation, a lot of the books, video games and stuff I play. I love watching anime, playing games, all that kind of stuff. And I actually keep a list of ideas whenever I feel uninspired. And I honestly think there's a difference between trying to make like an exercise piece and then making a piece that you want to present in a gallery. So for some works, I definitely go hard in the research, like really planning every single aspect of it out. But sometimes when I'm feeling uninspired, but I know that I just need to create just to keep my muscles strong, I'll just like pick out one of those weird ideas. Sometimes it's like a 2-word phrase. Sometimes it's like literally an image. Sometimes it's just literally whatever, just to kind of keep the muscle strong. And even if it's a bad idea, I think it's better to create every day and create regularly than it is to let that muscle weaken. Here's some of my PC specs, kind of boring stuff. I've recently just got an RTX 3090, so it's pretty huge. I'm excited to do some more work with that. I've upgraded my PC one time over the course of the year. Before this, I was running just like kind of average specs that your typical gamer would have. If anyone is interested, we can talk about specs later. And now we can start talking about my process of actually creating the artwork. So the first step is to go into DAZ 3D, which is a free poser-based software. And basically I can use this to take models, I can morph them, use different poses and such, like poses and animations, and then animate them. So here's how it looks when it starts, and then I'll pose it a few frames later using just a basic keyframe system. And that's really the base of most of my animations is using DAZ's keyframe system. And I'll start exploring some other software later, but that's not too important right now. The important thing to know is that DAZ is free. You can start using it right now, and it's just really convenient, especially to use as a base if you're just exploring. The next step is to go into Blender, and Blender is my primary tool that I will always use and probably always go back to, even stubbornly at times. But Blender is used for composition and animation. I ultimately use it to texture and render and do pretty much everything in there. But as far as creating a fine artwork or creating an artwork that I believe will have a message, it's going to DAZ, taking a model, posing it, and then I drop it in Blender. So I can kind of get just an idea for the piece and start kind of sketching out ideas, doing just loose iterative things like that. So this is the start of the idea. The idea was that my character would be floating in the middle of a room, and I wanted it to kind of look like in my studio, and that's basically all we have at that point. Then we go back and do sketches. So here on the left, we see a sketch I did using Procreate, just kind of over the like a really basic render. So I've gone from DAZ, taken the model, put it into Blender, then I kind of render one image that I think I'll like, bring it back out and just sketch over that so I can get some more loose, like, I think it's a different process to iterate via sketch or iterate via organic means versus iterating specifically through the computer. And so that's just kind of why I do that, because it feels different. It's a little more casual. I can kind of like sketch in bed, get some of those weird ideas out, and it's easier to go back and edit and correct as well. So here's the final product. You can see how I kind of, obviously my writing is dog shit. You cannot tell what I'm actually writing. But what I have here are some notes about the window. Basically I wanted to put in some rain streaks or some kind of cracks on the window. I wanted to put in tech, which means this tech window, which is this texture in the back. I wanted to define ETH, which this is the Ethereum symbol, and I just wanted to kind of define that on this right image. You can see how I got the idea for the chains, how I got the idea for the roses and flowers that I later put in. So just kind of sketching to add ideas a little bit quicker. And here's another one. This is my most recent work that I've done, and you can see how I took this one, rendered it out, put it in Procreate, and I just started iterating on top of that. So the blue guys are the cops. You can see how I added little things for my studio, my chair, and the eyes were originally supposed to be this goddess, but I've totally deviated from that original sketch, which is fine, just a part of the process. The next thing, this is the first thing that you need money for, is the Marvelous Designer, which I use for kind of fabric making and stitching. I think it's a really powerful software, actually. That does have a free trial as well as a student license, educational license, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you can use Marvelous Designer to stitch clothing in real time. So you can actually follow real clothing patterns that you may download or find online, or there's some really talented clothing designers that I've known to use the software. And so using that, I can simulate the fabrics, design fabrics, import fabrics, and then create animations for the fabric. So that's probably the next step in my workflow, is getting nice cloth simulation and clothing simulation into my animations. But this is the software I would use that for, and I just started using this about 2 weeks ago. And it's pretty easy to use. I've only been using it for 2 or 3 weeks. That is informed by my other 3D work, but it's not so hard to use. I think it's really intuitive and cool. So then we go back into Blender. So now we've got some clothing. We're kind of getting those ideas a little more solidified. We have sketches. And so now I'll go back into Blender and animate everything. So here we can see just kind of video of really basic animation. I'll full screen it for you guys. Kind of see some of the other elements that are being animated, these spinning things. A lot of this animation is kind of subtle because that's just kind of my style. But floating heads, gently swaying plants, things like that. It's all the kind of stuff I do before I texture, just because I find it's a little bit faster. This is when I add any other kind of trippy effect, spinning, weird stuff, After that, we go back into Blender. So we're still in Blender animating. The step after that is to texture. And I like Blender and Octane specifically because it is node-based. Node-based meaning you just connect different nodes together, and each of those nodes is like its own little math function. And so by combining these math functions with images, you can get different results for textures, etc. So yeah, this is what it looks like before I texture it. And then I throw texture on, add lighting, I do camera angles if I want to explore some novel thing like that. Yeah, as you can see, the work looks way different than it does when textured than it does when animated in gray. And I think this is the most impactful step because it really starts to tell the story if you pull it off correctly. After we are done animated, mostly done texturing, mostly have an idea of how the piece is going to end up, I'll usually render something out just for a preview, and then I'll go into Ableton Live. And so this is how I implement my music education from way back into my current work. Is I have a pretty good grasp on my 12 scales and music theory and stuff like that. So I'll just whip up a quick track. For this piece, I haven't done the audio yet. This is the first time I'm working with another audio artist, which is interesting, but I'll talk about that later maybe. But normally I would just do some quick audio design, so adding computer boops, adding in rain sounds, wind sounds. I would get some cop sirens, walkie-talkie sounds, and then doing really basic droning noises, kind of ambient, chill kind of music. Really similar to the stuff I used to release on Spotify and SoundCloud, just kind of the spiritual successor to that. And it's just really taking a backseat to the visual because that's kind of just my own thing, Another quick caveat with After Effects and Premiere Pro, that's definitely another subscription. Like I said, they do have I haven't said, but they have a student subscription, which is relatively cheap. I think $20, but you guys probably already know. BFAs. And so yeah, that's pretty much my process. At the end of the day, I'll have a finished animation that I can either mint, or it'll be for a client commission, or it's just kind of a free practice visual. You know what I'm saying? I'll use it for a visual set. I'll use it for a random social media thing. I'll use it for a stream or whatever. What I wanted to talk about here, I guess, is the difference between the few NFT platforms. I know it may seem like, oh, you just mint an NFT and that's what you're doing. But you kind of are doing that. Most NFTs are linked on a place called OpenSea, which is like a big aggregator of links of different NFTs. But specifically, I'm on Super Rare, which is where my work goes. It's where I applied. It's where I keep coming back to, and most of my collectors are. And so by minting it on Super Rare, in my mind, it kind of acts as a delegation or separating factor for my artwork. So the artwork I mint on Super Rare, I treat it as almost like a different gallery than I would the artwork I mint on Maker's Place, which specifically all these works are made with other people, with other visual artists. So that's like, this is the place where my collaborations live. Super Rare is the place where my solo pieces live. And there's a newer site called Hicket Nunch, I think it's pronounced. And this is kind of where I do just like my kind of cheaper, like I said, one-off pieces, animations or objects that didn't necessarily make it out as a specific one or with a specific message or anything like that. This project was kind of interesting. I dropped this 2 weeks ago for really cheap, like $5 or $6. There are 26 editions. And so this project was interesting because if you're already holding my artwork, then you actually get a few drops of these. Like, so some past collectors that have spent big bucks on my stuff have gotten some of these for free. And by holding one of these tokens, you basically opt in for a free airdrop of artwork later. So you hold this artwork, it's called the mantra token, and just later on, by holding it, you receive another piece of artwork for free, just for making this initial investment. So I definitely like to think of NFTs and blockchain artwork as a way as a medium or tool to integrate into your current work. It can be seen definitely as a way to just like upload images and make money. But now that I've been in it which isn't a long time, I've been in it for like 9 months, but I've been able to develop this identity that is, yes, fine art and expression of myself, but as I get more into the technology and start to understand more about the community, I can start implementing the fundamental ideas of blockchain technology into my artwork, which are the decentralization, that's really the main idea, but etc. So jumping right back, or I could do commissions and contracts, which are way more reliable. You're not just kind of waiting on someone's goodwill or someone to connect with your artwork, but it involves lots of changes, lots of contracts, kind of like, it can be stressful for sure. So yeah, now we can just go through some of my specific artworks. These are my favorite ones. I won't spend too much time on this, and maybe you guys can just go to my Instagram or Twitter or whatever if you're interested in looking at my artwork. So everything I'm showing right here is something that's sold on Super Rare successfully for the most part. This is Goddess 20 Aphrodite, so this is one of the last goddesses I made. Blender, Octane, After Effects, Ableton. This is Goddess 22 New Money. This is a fun piece because that's actually the actual Ethereum white paper there in the back. It's an animation, custom animation I created. The white paper is kind of like the source documents to Ethereum, so it explains how it works. It explains like the formulas and stuff behind it. So New Money is kind of a reference to the new age of NFT and crypto collectors, etc. Impish Admirable, just another chill animation following those themes, This one was kind of interesting. It's Where Do Ideas Come From? And I actually wrote up a article / editorial on my website. It's kind of like a multi-stage work where I created animations that actually lived within the artwork, and then I created a QR code that links to this actual article on my website. So it kind of all exists in this like circular meta relationship or whatever. The idea, where do ideas comes from, is just kind of something I was thinking about towards the end of the year, kind of thinking about some of the most impactful crypto artists that I saw over that past year of 2020. Just some of them are there, and you can check out my website or hit that QR code in the artwork to see more. That was a fun one. Gilded Swagger, a little more recent, kind of a little more lowbrow animation, just, exploring. I really wanted to put myself and my personality into this work a little bit more, so I kind of put some memes up there, frequent emojis and stuff that I like to use. And I just love putting like small details like that in the work, and I'm not sure if they ever do get seen or appreciated, but it makes me feel good about it. The next work, Satiation X Starvation. This work is more of a commentary on the state of crypto art. satiation is the idea that you will be satisfied beyond your needs, starvation, obviously starving. And so this work was kind of exploring the dichotomy of the ultra rich sitting next to basically the ultra poor. And we see that in artists that just are maybe struggling to make sales, sitting next to artists that are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars and kind of just flexing on everyone. So this artwork's just about that, and it was ended up collected, so I was pretty grateful for that. And yeah, this is when my artwork starts to get a little more conceptual. This year, I start thinking about the medium and my message in more of a broader sense. This work is super popular because it was on the H3 podcast. I got on that podcast live a few weeks ago. That was really cool, talking to Ethan and Ela and like the whole crew. I was like, in shock because I'd been watching that podcast for so long. But yeah, Druid is a continuation of all those themes I've been building before, kind of going the ancient dryad kind of themes. This work is still uncollected, but I actually gifted it to one of my collectors recently, this morning actually. So shout out Goltra, who is one of my biggest collectors and biggest advocates. He's written about my work, and he's a pretty consistent player in the Philippine crypto scene. So yeah. This is another recent work called Judgment of the Technocrat. I'm kind of exploring the idea of technologists being judged by these ethereal entities, kind of implementing this mantra that I've built, technology plus expression equals freedom, into the whole idea. This is the same work that I sketched out that you guys saw earlier. So yeah, it's just ultimately animation that was collected as well. And this is a more recent work that I'm really proud of. This is New Tulsa, which was about the, I think, 1921 Tulsa massacre, where just, I think like $2.7 million worth of residential buildings. People were killed. They literally dropped fire bombs out of the sky on this few city blocks of Tulsa that was also known as, I believe it was called Black Wall Street, and it was just known for being a wealthy place for black people to live, and it was destroyed. So I did this work and minted it as an NFT to kind of represent the dichotomy of fiat cash, which ultimately held no insurance or no security for the black people of Tulsa, against the idea that cryptocurrency, which is a decentralized financial network, would maybe provide some more financial security and agency to people if they had that technology back then. And this work was commissioned by Ryan Watkins, and we just decided to mint it on the blockchain to kind of tell the full story, kind of package it all together. So this is a fun one. It took a really long time to finish, but it was cool. I'm proud of it. Mantra token, I tapped into that a little bit. If you hold the token, you get free artwork, and that's basically what this is. It's an unused asset for a client project I ended up doing, so I won't go into that one too much. This is a collaboration I did with an artist called Techies. It was a pretty cool guy. I'm playing with his textures and just kind of doing something fun, kind of getting back into the flow of creating. I think I took like a 2 to 3 week break for making artwork, and then this is kind of one of the first things I started making, coming back into that flow. I finished this piece about a month ago, yeah. This is like one of my favorite pieces that I've made. I finished it this month. It's called Liminal Harlequin. And yeah, just kind of like almost like a capstone project for the Goddesses series that I've been doing for so long. Definitely just like really cool to explore this subject once again. It's a subject that I'm gonna definitely keep coming back to, probably regardless of how old I get. But yeah, just like almost like a little check-in, like a goddess benchmark check-in to see how I'm doing. So yeah, picked up a lot of different skills and styles, and it's kind of reflecting in my work now. But it is one of my favorite pieces. Quite proud of it. Yeah, so that's 1 year of NFTs, starting off with a basic, literally a floating head, to creating full narrative animations with audio design and artwork within the artwork. So I think it's pretty awesome to be in NFTs, and looking at it that way, it's definitely beneficial for me, regardless of how much money I've made this time and the opportunities I was able to spend just working on my own artwork, just focusing on my craft was that's invaluable. So I'm just things about NFTs. It's probably the ideal situation for artists who want to make income from exactly what you create as an individual. So if you feel like you want to make money from literally your own, only the pure expression of your own artwork without, and you feel like you already have a cohesive branding package, you feel like you have a story to tell, you've told your story before, you're excited to tell your story, then this is definitely something that's more for you. It's really stressful to depend on sales as your primary means of income. Just as, like I said, I'm just kind of waiting on someone to connect with my artwork and just like hoping, which is, you know, it's just different than working a 9 to 5 and just knowing that you get a paycheck every week. So something to be aware of. And it also takes a long time to like build up sales sometimes. Like it's not always like a instant pop off, especially if you aren't an established artist. Like I've seen definitely a lot of artists come in, and myself included, being like, oh, like I deserve more money. And it's not that you don't even deserve to be valued what you think you should be valued. It's just that you're comparing yourself to someone with an entire social media marketing team who's been working for 15 years, who has many connections in the industry. So, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. You have to stay patient, and it's not going to happen overnight. And a lot of the overnight success you've seen has been in the making for several years. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. And yeah, it's important to just keep adapting to weird marketplaces and stay open to like seemingly novel opportunities. I've applied to like almost every crypto platform, and I've definitely gotten in just because I knew that if I was persistent enough and got in before it got too chaotic, then I really wouldn't have to worry about trying to get in when it got too big. So that was kind of my mindset in a lot of these other crypto platforms, which I haven't even dropped work on, but I think I'm on like 5 or 6. But yeah, just kind of like my mindset. And I think we're pretty much done. I've been spouting off about myself for quite a while. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. 3D artist, going from FSU, working in sandwich shops, to doing 3D art and NFTs. Now I'm moving from Tallahassee, Florida, where I've lived my whole life, off to Seattle, Washington, here over the summer. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I could definitely go through Zoom, or I can mute myself. Thank you. I can mute myself.
I have questions.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was an amazing talk. I'm so incredibly impressed. One of the things that I'm here to do is to help to connect alumni. So I'm helping to also create a conversation between Robert and Lena Weisbrot, who graduated from FSU in 2014 and graduated from UCLA a couple of years ago. So we can keep this connection going, just like looping you all back in today. Mm-hmm. Some of my questions on a purely personal level: which festivals do you think, I mean, I don't know what will exist after the apocalypse, but which festivals do you think are good right now?
Anything Tipper and Friends is going to be a really great but intense event. I think that Halloween is one of the best festivals out there. Bass. Yeah, it's a lot of bass.
Okay,
it's a lot of
let
bass.
Me reframe this. Have you been to festivals outside of North Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to electronic festivals outside of North Florida.
Yes, we're in the same genre. Okay.
Yeah. I think the only festival I've been to outside of Florida is probably Camp Bisco, and I'm sure there's some others that I'm just not remembering off the top of my head. But mostly in Florida, and I've had most of my experiences in Florida just because that was like most accessible to me. You know, okay. It's not too hard to drive a few hours to a fest for me.
No, but going to 20 festivals in Florida meant you were really applying yourself. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting what I'd like to check back on this in a few years and see if you've been to some more festivals nationally and what your opinions are. I've been to most of the festivals in Florida. I just want to say, you know, at some point, see a festival in Austin. What's nice is they're music connoisseurs and they're at the top of their game.
What I see things that. You said you just see a festival.
I think
in Austin.
Everything. I have been to a festival in Austin. It's been a little bit, but it was the best one I've ever been to because of the quality of the sound and that their music connoisseurship level is at a different point than maybe North Florida. Even though, yes, I love Swan. So the next question I have for you is, you know, what is a big sale for you as an NFT right now?
Probably a big sale for me would be like 3 or 4 ETH, which it always fluctuates, but ETH is about $2,200 today. So that would be like $8 to $10,000 would be a big sale. The reason I say, I mean, I acknowledge anything over a few $100 is a big sale. But the reason that I'm so particular about it is because I've already kind of established a certain price level for my artwork. And so if I were to dip below that price level, then the value of the artwork that's already been collected by my other collectors would go down, which creates less of an incentive for a resale market.
Are you concerned with how the market for this currency may go down and what that would do to the perceived value of your collective work?
I have enough confidence in my own artwork and my own presence as an artist that I don't think my value would go down. If ETH were to collapse and go to $5 tomorrow, I would just price my work to be like 1,000 ETH or something, you know. So I whether
So
that
just, correct.
yeah, I would just adjust. But if it's sold at 1,000 ETH, I also wouldn't sell for 500 ETH a few days later, if that makes sense. Even if the price of ETH went back up. So it's a weird one when you're tying your value to a currency that's so nebulous as Ethereum or any other cryptocurrency.
Thank you, because artists that I'm friends with, some former students, master's degree students who are in New York, you know, they're concerned with the perceived value of your work and attaching yourself to something that might be worthless at some point after being valued. So I think your answer was excellent. Any other questions? Does anybody want to unmute or put a question in chat?
I got a question.
What's up?
I was just wondering, like, how are NFTs like sold? Like, do people bid on them, or can only one person purchase it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so NFTs are, you can buy them for a set price. So we'll just go over here. We'll see what's up. This is just a random person's artwork we're hopping on now. Oh, that's pretty cool. So there are a couple different ways that the artwork can be sold. So I could place a bid right here, which means that I could place a bid for anything under or over 1 ETH. Well, okay, let me break it down. It's pretty complex, actually. All right, so you can buy an artwork outright. So I can list it for 1 ETH and buy it right then. This person right here with this piece, they've set a reserve of 1 ETH, which means that I can bid under it. I can bid under that amount. So for example, I could put 0.5 ETH and they don't have to accept it. It's an option to accept. If they see that bid and they want to accept, they can, but their reserve is 1 ETH. By bid, and sometimes if you place a bid, someone will DM you or you'll DM them to talk, or just outright by listing a price. Mm-hmm.
And like when you purchase the artwork, is that the only person that can get it? Like, is that like unavailable?
So once you purchase an artwork, I'll go to an artwork that's been sold. I think I have something that's been sold multiple times. So So maybe I don't have an example. Once you buy an artwork, I can then list it on my own. So let's say someone, I'm just kind of, give me 1 second. I'll see if I can find anything. I feel like I should be able to. Whatever. So once this person buys an artwork, this is Gultra, who I mentioned earlier. Basically, they have that artwork in their wallet, and someone else can come in and buy that artwork from them based on how much they've listed it for, if that makes sense. So it's still my artwork. My name is still tied to it, but Goldtree is the current owner of the artwork. It's not one permanent owner. It's the current owner of the artwork. So there can be, there's only one owner at a time, but someone else can come in. I mean, I can make an offer on my own artwork and attempt to buy it back from him if I wanted to, if that makes sense.
So once you sell it, you can't resell it though.
Correct, but I do get royalties based on each sale, which super rares default to 10%. And different platforms, you can actually adjust that amount. So some platforms you can go up to as high as like 50% royalties if you chose to do so. So it definitely it benefits you when your artwork gets resold, but there's a balance between, you know, potentially selling your work for too little and missing out on some profit, and that's like a whole balance and relationship with the collector, and you know, it's a lot to get into.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Hey, Bobby.
I was wondering if you had any kind of predictions about like how these spaces could become more accessible to like a more mainstream audience in the near future.
I think the first steps to mainstream approval are like more celebrities, more like, I mean, when we talk about mainstream, that's what it means to be mainstream, is to get large corporations behind it that can market your product to a mass audience. So I think we're definitely headed down there. I think Paris Hilton just made an NFT. She just did a nifty gateway drop. I think another important factor will be the ability to pay with USD, although that's kind of at odds with the idea of blockchain and cryptocurrency. But I think that will be a huge way to onboard more people. And there's a website called Bitski, and you can buy and sell with USD right there. And then also Nifty Gateway, they're leading the charge as far as getting really big clients, really big artists, and also being super accessible. So I'm pretty sure you can pay, and yeah, you can pay with a credit card, and it's listed in USD versus being listed in Ethereum or something like that. So I think that's like the start, is USD, popular people, like your favorite artists, and once people start seeing some actual functionality, like I saw this really cool thing, NFT chain. It's like a way to display your NFT, but it was on an actual, oh yeah, it's this. So like stuff like this, where it's like, okay, now there's actual technology, there's actual use cases for NFTs. Like, it's cool to flex this super expensive thing, you know. So I think that, you know, we'll start seeing more stuff like this, and it'll get more popular. I think if anyone puts out a really cheap digital frame, it'll be super great, super accessible. Yeah.
So using the power of your imagination and your experience, what do you have any more predictions for how this is going to, what this is going to look like in the next year in terms of how artwork will evolve or change?
My hope is that artworks become more interactive with the blockchain, like the element between the human being consuming the artwork and how the blockchain functions as a mode for coding or interaction, I think will become stronger and stronger. I think personally what I want to do is start finding ways to onboard more people into the community and find more, I mean, specifically for me, crypto art is a vessel for me to express myself, but also find financial agency to do actions in the outside world. So ideally, I'd like to teach kids how to use Blender and get them really fast computers and stuff like that. But as far as predictions on how it goes, I think it's only going to get crazier and crazier. I think we're going to see more things be tokenized that you didn't think could be tokenized. For example, tokenized tweets is like a year old at this point or more. So we're going to start seeing more things like that. We're going to start seeing I think more wearable and digital collectibles, like maybe like an iPhone, like, you know, if you the iPhone character that you have, like your Memoji, like NFTs that can go in your Memoji and stuff like that. I don't know if that answered the original question. I kind of got sidetracked, but
Totally. No, it's beautiful. I guess then, you know, you were not part of the traditional gallery world. You have come on board purely online, but do you see an obsolescence to the traditional gallery? I mean, I know that it's been threatened by, you know, selling through Instagram. Do you think that this will partner, or do you think that this could cause a collapse in the traditional art market?
I think it will partner. Sotheby's, I did not spell that right. Sotheby's has gotten into NFTs now. I'm not sure exactly who it was off the top of my head.
It
Beeple
was
is
people.
okay. Yeah. Southeast Beast and Beeple. So I think just like that. So Beeple, I don't know if you guys know Beeple, but he's a really big 3D artist who makes artwork every day. Biggest NFT sale in history, I think, or something like that. But I think that exactly what we see there is going to continue to happen, where physical galleries will find a way to elevate their physical artists even further with the help of digital technology and NFTs. I don't think that physical galleries will go away by any means, because people do still want to meet up. I mean, people like to talk to each other and be in person and experience things firsthand. And so I think really it's just going to be about physical galleries updating their technology a little bit to probably just like a few more TV screens to display digital art. But I think it's going to go hand in hand, especially when you think about verification of artwork for the future. So, for example, if I paint a physical painting and embed an NFT like you would a microchip on a dog that proves its authenticity in 100 years in the future, then like that has an advantage, and things like that. You know, there's a lot of novel applications, I believe. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any more questions for Robert?
Yeah, I could talk about my work, talk about NFTs. If you want to know, like, oh, is my art valid in an NFT? The answer is yes, first of all. So I guess that's that answer. Yeah, anything.
Robert, what about your relationships? It sounds like you're building relationships with collectors, and that was one of my first initial questions was, is there a relationship? Do you even know who's buying your art? But it sounds like the answer to that is yes. Okay.
Sometimes
do you
I
feel
do.
like that's an important piece to selling your work?
Yes, I think when Carrie talks about will your artwork stand if the Ethereum market collapses, I think that's like one of the biggest answers to that question, where it's like if you're making connections with people that genuinely see value in your artwork, and those people are definitely very hard to come by in the modern age. Like, yes, you'll have friends and people that support you always, but to meet someone that's saying, hey, I see your vision, I'm willing to invest a sum of money into that vision, is like incredibly valuable. And so I'll say that I've had 23 sales, and I don't know every collector that I have, but I wish I did know each one personally. And I have let go some artworks just because I needed some money to make some sales. And it's not saying so much that I regret it, but it's always a question in my mind. It's like, oh, who is this person? What are their intentions with my artwork? Do they see my artwork at a specific value? Things like that. So yeah, I think there is a huge advantage in knowing your collector and forming a personal relationship. You know, I mean, this person just bought your artwork. Like, you should probably know what they're about. I'm sure they're interested in knowing what you're about if they're willing to invest in you as well. So, yeah, I'd say I got to work on that too. I'm not the best at even managing deep interpersonal relationships, especially on social media. It was a lot easier in person, going to festivals, regularly meeting up with people. But, and you know, when you involve a lot of money, things definitely become like an ego competition at certain times, and just it's really hard to fully express yourself and put all the nuance of human expression and conversation onto a Twitter post. And Twitter is the primary modes by which we operate in the NFT space. It's like almost all you're tweeting out your art, you're tweet replying, you're DMing people, and that's kind of how we built. Not we, but I mean, yes, including me, but how this space seems to have been built. You know.
I want to thank you so much for coming. It's not the end of the questions per se, but I have to run. I have to go have something notarized before 5. This to me was 10 out of 10. One of the best visiting artist talks we've ever had across media, across platforms, not just alumni. This was awesome. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and know that, you know, I'm comforted by knowing that I can direct students to this for time to come. I will be sending this to others and reposting it. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Carrie. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. So if other people have questions, Robert, I don't know how long you have.
I'm chilling for like another 20-30 minutes or so. I was streaming. Maybe I'll see if there's any questions in YouTube or anything. Yeah, got me for a little longer.
Okay. Anybody want to ask any more questions?
Hey, Robert, forgive me if you went over this already,
Hey.
but as far as getting set up and going from, I'm just making these digital animations and these three-dimensional artworks, from going from that to I have, an account hooked up to Ethereum and I'm on, these various sales platforms. How long would you say that it took you from, going from zero to, being able to make a sale and collect money on your work?
I'd say so. It took me about a month and a half to get into Super Rare after I first applied. It took about a week or so to get onboarded onto the platform, but I'd say if you're trying to get into it right now, I'll say it took me about a month and a half to get my first sale and get money in my pocket from uploading the artwork. And that was like a year ago, back when the market was pretty dead and there weren't many people on it. What I want to show you guys now is like our emerging markets. So a lot of the primary issue between NFTs in the mainstream seems to be like environmental issues. So in response, there are a lot of environmentally friendly green NFT platforms that are popping up. Like I've said, the Mantra token was released on this platform. So I think that if you were an artist trying to get started quickly, your best bet is to go on Hicket Nunch, which is here, link it, and then or go on OpenSea, which just allow you to mint for free and mint directly. And so I think you could probably have, if you already have an artwork created, you could probably have it up and minted in under a day for sure. It's not too hard to understand. But as far as from uploading your first NFT to getting your first sale, I that just depends on the individual who's collecting your artwork. That depends a lot on how much you're willing to put into marketing yourself. One huge thing in addition to Twitter is Clubhouse, and that's a drop-in, drop-out voice chat program or app on iPhone, and there's one on Android. So a lot of times people are in there kind of like shilling or hustling themselves or telling their stories and stuff like that. But those, putting yourself out there in a big way is like definitely the fastest way to get a sale if that's your goal. Yeah. So it doesn't take long to get set up. It can take a long time to get your first sale.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but what have you seen that like people do with what they purchase, like your NFTs? Like what have they done with them?
So like for example, you have the chain, and then you have like basic digital displays. But I think the biggest part of NFTs is like displaying them in VR. It seems to be. So there are a few different things. Apps, metaverses, I guess you could call them, and a lot of people will call it a metaverse, these different virtual worlds. So a lot of people will just display their NFTs in virtual reality by creating their own galleries. Let's look at the Nara gallery, which is a virtual reality gallery that my work is actually bought, or that my work lives in. My collector, Colin Goltra, collected that, and he's been just kind of building up this gallery, this virtual reality gallery, with some of his other friends. So that's one way you could display it. And then once you're in virtual reality, you can actually interact with it there. So you could bid on the artwork, do live auctions, etc. This is a top-down image of a district in Decentraland. So if you imagine having a virtual plot of land, virtual street blocks, each of these squares represents an area that is owned by this person with by the person with this logo or whatever. And so which within the space, they've built their own buildings, they built their own galleries, they built their own auction houses, etc. So that's kind of like, that's the main thing I see NFTs being, the main thing collectors do with their NFTs is display them in VR. There's let's go fuck render NFT gallery. One of the biggest artists in the space, as far as like 3D art NFTs goes, is fuck render, and he's created a physical gallery where his NFTs are displayed, and I'm gonna look for it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it quick. Oh, here it is. So he's actually set up physical screens just in space to display NFTs. I know Victor Mascara and another artist, Mad Dog Jones. I think that is right there. Maybe that's Nest Graphics. Just a bunch of artists in the NFT scene. But yeah, you can see they're being displayed in real time, physically. Another cool thing. Let's look up Artifact and Fuocious. Fuocious is another really, really big artist who's been here for a long time. He's created virtual sneakers, and by creating that virtual sneaker, they've I think they partnered to create an actual physical sneaker to go into it. But that physical sneaker also has a virtual wearable element, so your character in Decentraland can wear the shoe that you've collected on Super Rare or however it's done, And you can see that they're making more. It's so loud. They're making more like physical wearables and stuff like that. So I think the main applications are in the virtual space. As far as like a fine art sense, it seems like the only application really right now is like displaying them on a TV or something. But there are a lot of interesting things happening with like music NFTs as far as a way to track royalties for artists. So example, if your music is connected to an NFT and it gets used on Spotify, maybe that'd be like a little easier way to collect royalties or etc. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's I'm not too much into like the heavy tech stuff. I'm mostly just trying to express myself. But yeah, that's about some of the stuff I've seen. So shoes, wearables, and virtual reality, the main, just some things that can happen with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions?
No? You have any on your end, Robert?
I'm wondering kind of what you guys think of NFTs from the outside looking in as like artists about to graduate and like hit the world. What do you guys think? Is this something that you're interested in? Does it seem overwhelming? Would love to know.
Yes and yes.
True.
I'm wondering about those that maybe do more traditional things like painting, working with traditional materials and looking at the digital aspect and maybe thinking, is there a place for me in this world, or do I have to completely go digital with my work?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and highlight a cool 2D artist. Now, I'm not sure if she is specifically doing physical artwork, but this is at least 2D artist that I've really enjoy, and she's been advocating a lot in the space for 2D physical artists. Her name's Sophie Sturdivant, and her partner I Art Sometimes is also really prolific in the space. But yeah, okay. I think this is hand drawn. It looks hand drawn to me. But yeah, she's like pretty prominent in the space. Lots of great takes. Great person and artist. Just as one example. Let's see, Trevor Jones. Yeah, so this is like, when I think of physical work in the NFT space, he's like one of the primary guys I always think of. Just A, because his work is sold for a bunch of money, but B, because it's really good. And so you can see how he's his process a little bit here. He is physically painting these, but I think he also has a team that paints with them sometimes. But then he'll take these works, photograph them, and animate them to give them to elevate them above the physical medium. So I'm going to look really quickly, try and find it. He's done augmented reality over his painting. So he takes the painting and then through some process, he'll augment it and animate it so that when you look at it through your phone, it's like floating around in pieces and stuff. And then I think he also sends original canvases or prints. Don't quote me on that, but he might send original canvases or prints to his collectors, just as like a thank you and as to just to go along with the artwork. And like I said, that could maybe be an issue only if your collector is someone who prefers to remain anonymous, or if your artwork transfers hands many times, it's going to be a little bit harder to keep track. Or, how do you get someone who to just on their goodwill send over this original one of one Trevor Jones painting, etc. But that's just one application of it. I think they're the major players. So it's definitely spaced out there for you. When you think about it, yes, you'll probably be scanning or taking a picture of your painting and uploading it as an NFT, but maybe there's something different that you could do that I just haven't thought of yet. Yeah, but there's space for you. All art is valid. I think just 3D art, when I started, was really popular, and it's becoming a little less popular now. I'm definitely noticing more figurative, expressive work popping up, which, is a great thing. So I think everyone has space, everyone has opportunity, and it really only takes one person to see value in your artwork if you view it that way, So, food for thought. Yeah.
All right. Well, other thoughts? Any last thoughts or questions or? Okay.
Thank you for that. It was awesome. Really, really.
Yes.
You're welcome. Happy to see you. Happy to talk.
Yes. Thank you so much, Robert. This was amazing. So much great information. Have to do some digging now, a deep dive on this, but this is such a fascinating world to get into, and it seems so accessible, even for someone just starting out. So thank you for opening our eyes to this whole thing. This is amazing.
Yeah,
and
happy
congratulations on your success.
Thank you. We're still hopefully still on the upward journey of success, but I really appreciate the kind words and talking to you guys.
I don't doubt it. And just listening to you talk about not only your art process, but also it seems like you have a really great business mind as well. And we didn't really get into that, but this, that's a whole other thing, right? It is. The business part of it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons I was able to get this far is because I was thinking about my artwork from a business for a really long time. Like I had no illusions or fantasies about how hard or difficult some of the business side of things were going to be. And like when I say treat your art like a business, it's not even necessarily like demanding a lot of money for your artwork or something. It's just like knowing that, I have to invest money into my tools. Like, I have to market myself. There's just certain things that have to be done to be successful. But it's not that bad, once you start doing it and get into the habit. Yeah, it can get tiring at times, but ultimately worth it, I think. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, Liz, and good to see everybody. If you have questions, I'm the moderator on the r/cryptoart subreddit. So just hop in there, ask some questions. There's a bunch of information in the sidebar and stuff like that too. So yeah. I think I'm about to head out and dip. But yeah, hit me up on social media or any questions and stuff. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Robert. This is such a pleasure.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
And thank you
Bye,
all
Liz.
for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Y'all have a great summer, great life. Keep making art. All right, bye.
All right, we'll end. All right, thank you all.
All right, that was fun. Good talking to the youths. They're not much younger than me, honestly. But yeah, if you're watching the stream, thanks for showing up. I'm out.